let's proceed to the next segment, which is the group presentation. So just a friendly reminder before we proceed, to all teams presenting, you're given only 15 minutes to present, and you're also followed by a commentary from your mentor for 5 minutes. So after that, we'll have the Q&A segment, which we have extended to only 10 minutes. So we'll attempt to give way to all your questions, but in case we can't accommodate to all of it, please don't be disheartened. Your curiosity and engagement are always appreciated. And during the presentation, as a reminder, if your presentation has reached 10 minutes, there will be a mouth buzzer to warn that the time is left with only 5 minutes. And if you've used all 15 minutes of your time, there will be a louder buzz. So we've heard about communication from a communication master. So let's have our youth prove their caliber. Let's start with Team 4 with their topic, etiquette and first impression. Take it away, Team 4.
A very good afternoon to Mr. Shaun, invited guests, and all participants. It is a great honor for my team and I to be part of this event. Without further ado, let's get started with the presentation.
First impression. A person's initial thoughts and perception of the other person they are talking with, typically involving a positive or negative evaluation, as well as a sense of physical and psychological characteristics.
Sorry, Hazri. Sorry for cutting you off, but it's pretty boring. Why don't we all just Netflix and chill? Who's presenting? Okay, Farah.
All right. I'm sure everyone had a great time enjoying episodes 1, 2, and 3. Now, let's move on to episode 4. Before we go on, why don't we watch a trailer depicting the insights of episode 4? Everyone here has definitely had a first impression on someone before, whether it may be a good first impression like, wow, he's dressed appropriately, I'm sure he's smart, or a bad first impression such as, why does she never smile? She seems mean. As you can see from the video, there are different times when people first encounter you, and right at that moment, they might have a first impression of you. It could either be a good or a bad one. We never know. To leave a good impression, you should obey the rules of etiquette, such as basic manners and being kind and considerate to others. I now pass the floor to Jarek to elaborate more on this.
Thank you, Farah. I'm sure that all of you now know what first impressions is after watching the videos. As you can see and may know, synonyms for first impressions can be first consideration or judgment, an idea, feeling, an opinion, or a sense. In simple definition, a first impression is basically what a person thinks or feels when they first encounter or meet another person. And the reason why first impressions are so important is that they last well beyond that moment. And this is actually thanks to something called the primacy effect, which means that when someone experiences something before other things in a sequence, they tend to remember that first thing more. Other than that, first impressions can make or break opportunities. This applies in situations where you might be going for a job interview or studying overseas. And some studies we found actually show that 55% look into the appearance, 7% of words used, and 38% of the tone of voice. And here are some fun facts for you guys. Did you guys actually know that within less than 20 seconds of meeting, people will have a solid impression of who you are? And the first feature that most people recognize about someone is their smile. And you never know and if your smile just made their day. Next slide. So this is basically the data that we have collected from a total of 90 people who answered our survey last week. And on the left, it shows that 82.5% of them agreed that first impressions really do matter. And when it comes to qualities at the center, as you can see from the slides, the majority of them chose all the above, where they base people off from the way they speak, the way they look, and how they act. But only 40% of them chose personality. which means that these people actually really look into character instead of appearance. And from the data received, around 70% of the people take about a minute or more to create an evaluation of someone. To sum up, from the survey, we learned that some of us really take first impressions seriously, and some would care more about the personality after getting to know them for a while. Next slide. On the other hand, first impressions can be considered overrated in some situations. First impression, according to Professor Alex Todorov from Princeton University, first impressions are likely to be wrong all the time as they are based on shallow assumptions only. And this is why we say first impressions are overrated. Still unclear about it? Okay, let me give you guys a common and close example. Let's say that we will be meeting a person. We actually assume that person is an introvert based on his or her appearance. But after actually socializing with the person for quite some time, it turns out that the person is actually an extrovert. And this just shows that we can't rely on our judgments on people we've just met fully. But again, it totally depends on the situation. And this is why it is possible for us to change people's point of view of us through our actions as time passes by. That is all from me, and I'll hand this over to Alicia.
Thank you, Jarek. So based on our survey, we could conclude that first impressions really do matter. So here are some tips on body language that you might be wondering about how to get that promotion or even flirt with your crush. All right, keep your arms relaxed at your sides, showing you are open to what someone else is communicating. Use hand gestures when speaking, as it is proven to increase credibility with the person you're speaking with. They also help reinforce the words and ideas you're trying to say. When having a conversation, smiling can help engage comfortness in the other individual and lift up moods. It also makes you seem approachable and people like being around you. In addition, studies have shown that having a good posture gives out the impression that you are someone who's more persistent in completing tasks and never gives up easily, a great way to impress in job interviews. Making eye contact is a general rule. It shows that you're focused on the person who's talking. People tend to search for reactions when having a conversation, where being expressive plays an important role. So be expressive. People don't want to see a boring or blank face, making them feel they are talking to a wall, right? This might be a touchy topic, but for too much physical contact, annoying. We should respect their personal space. Don't slouch, as it can make you look less professional and can possibly make you look less confident and enthusiastic. On the other hand, crossing your arms or legs is seen as being disrespectful and someone who lacks manners. It is definitely a sign of uninterest, and crossing arms also shows insecurity and defensiveness. By the way, did you know fidgeting tells someone that you're impatient and afraid? Yeah, better think twice when tapping those feet. Being physically and emotionally tense can affect your performance in a conversation, as you seem to be unready, and your tone would sound flat and unwelcoming. So be relaxed and break a leg on that first impression. Now, I pass the floor to Jadrian.
Thank you, Alicia. Now I will share some tips on how to make a good virtual impression. Whenever you attend a call, you should dress up properly, because people do judge a book by its cover, and they do it within 7 seconds of setting their eyes on you. You don't have to dress to the 9s or 10s. You just have to be more conservative in your choice of clothing and just look neat and tidy. Another great way to impress someone virtually is to have a nice and appropriate background. When you turn on the camera, see how your background looks on the camera. Get rid of any clutter and tidy up your room if necessary. Furthermore, taking notes also gives a good impression, especially during a meeting. It indicates that you're interested and are paying attention to what the other person is saying. Not only that, you can also ask questions as well, because it shows that you're making an effort to learn more about them. Lastly, paying full attention is also important. Listening by nodding, smiling, or responding to what the other person is saying gives a good impression, because people like to be heard, and it shows that you're striving to learn from them. On the other hand, a common mistake made by many people during a call is being on their phone. Using your phone comes off as extremely impolite, and it sends it gives the other person the impression that they're boring you and you have other better things to do. Also, showing up late to a meeting or an interview sends the other person the message that your time is worth more than theirs. By being late, you're showing lack of respect for everyone else's time. Moreover, making distracting noises annoy everyone in the call, and it will give people a wrong impression about you. People might think that you're purposely trying to irritate them or draw all the attention to yourself. Lastly, looking elsewhere for no reason and not focusing on your screen all the time gives the impression that you're not interested and not paying attention to what the other person is saying. Now I'll pass the ceiling, door, floor, and table to Lailato.
Thank you, Jaden, for passing the ceiling, floor, door, and tables to me. So you guys might be wondering, why should we even bother to make a good first impression? Why do I have to smile every time? Like, it's so tiring, right? Left. Kiri, you're wrong. Salah. There are a myriad of benefits of having a good first impression. And firstly, it will last in a person's memory forever, whether in a job interview or in a lab meeting. How you look and act can matter as much as your ideas. We are all humans, right? It is impossible for us not to make these snap judgments about one another, as we are programmed to see what we expect to see. So once their unconscious evaluation has labeled you as either being trustworthy or deceptive, it will stay on them forever, and I mean forever. Not only that, they will also seek out information that reinforces their opinion and ignore other behaviors that are contradictory. Furthermore, having a good first impression can show reliability. According to a study called The Science of First Impression by NYU in 2013, people assign a value to someone based on their first impression. So for example, in business settings, professionals are judged on trust and competency. The first impression you give a client will set the tone for your future opportunities. You never know who you're going to meet, right? The person you're currently talking to could be a boss or colleague in the next 10 to 20 years. And as I mentioned earlier, first impressions stick to people, which is why it matters. Next slide, please. Again, you might be wondering with your curious little minds, get it? Curious mind? You might be wondering where or when are the most important times to make a good first impression. So firstly, and most obviously, job interviews. Networking and meeting new people are the times where you have to put up a fantastic first impression. Brian Swider et al. Found that interviewees who made a good first impression on the interviewers received better scores for the questions they answered in the interview compared to those who made a poor first impression. So all in all, your initial greeting could be the key in determining the outcome of your whole entire interview. First dates are also important. You never know, right? You might be having a first date with your soulmate, and if, ladies and gentlemen, if you make a bad first impression, please don't ask me why you're still single. So that is all for me. I will then pass the floor, ceiling, and my whole house to Vanessa.
Woo! I would like to send my warmest regards to Lailato for passing the floor, table, ceiling, and entire house, as well as concluding the first part of this episode. It is my pleasure to introduce you to part 2, etiquette. When the word etiquette is mentioned, people often think of royals and high society, of straight posture and fine dining. However, there is much more beneath the surface to etiquette. Etiquette refers to behaving in a socially responsible manner. To elaborate, let us move on to the next slide. So proper etiquette, it includes good manners, the way you act and what you say. It embraces the golden rule of putting others before yourself, to act in courtesy and with kindness and honesty. It is important to implement proper etiquette in cultures and communities so that others feel comfortable and at ease around you, to express respect and prevent misconceptions or bad impressions, which, for example, could include addressing people you are talking about by gesturing with your full hand instead of pointing at people with your index finger. So, having good etiquette benefits you as much as it does others. There are common etiquette mistakes that you may not notice, such as forgetting to introduce your friend to an acquaintance in a social setting, or sneezing into your right palm, which becomes unhygienic when you are reaching for handshakes. Hence, practicing proper etiquette helps you develop yourself and feel confident. Thank you for attending my afternoon tea session. Now I would like to draw the attention back to Farah.
Thank you for that lovely explanation, Vanessa. Now I will get into the types of etiquette. Basically, there are many types of etiquette, and such examples are inviting people to sit down at an event, saying please and thank you when talking to others while smiling, and being friendly. As shown on the left, being punctual to work and being respectful to each other, especially in a workplace, are good examples of etiquette. Meanwhile, on the right, it is stated that we should learn to respect everyone regardless of their status. Last but not least, we should also take care of our appearance and manners. I will now pass the mic back to the best, most inspiring, sexy, smart, tall, handsome, awesome, coolest, and funniest leader, Amanda.
Thank you, Farah. In conclusion, Life is a first impression where you will only be given one chance to make a great one that lasts a lifetime. So make sure to grab the opportunity to show others the best version of you. And last but not least, thank you, Shaun, for lending us your Netflix account. That is all from Team 4. Thank you for listening.
Wow, guys.
Amazing.
Hey, I'm gonna be out of a job if you are any better, all right? You know, the momentum, the energy, it's so consistent. One person after another, everyone is like keeping up with each other. And you are all strangers who haven't seen each other face to face. This is remarkable. You know, the chemistry, the flow, you guys have just blown me away, totally. And well done to the mentor. Who is the mentor today? Andrew.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Wow, what a job.
I think first and foremost, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew.
Good afternoon, bro.
I'm from CIC. Hi, good afternoon, Shaun. Good afternoon, bro.
I think I should introduce Mr. Andrew properly. Is that
No
okay?
worries.
We jumped the step. We're all too excited.
No worries. The floor is yours.
I kind of want to listen to more, honestly. That was splendid. I don't want to take more of the time. So Mr. Andrew Law, the mentor for this team, Assistant Manager, Sales and Business Development, CIC Environmental Services, from our Platinum sponsor for his commentary.
Woo! Andrew, take it away.
All right. First of all, sorry to interrupt, but good afternoon and welcome, Mr. Shaun, Hoon, moderators, guests of honors, and all the participants, and also everyone else. My name is Hazri, and today I'm here with the Assistant Manager of Sales Business at CIC Environmental Services, Mr. Andrew Lowe. Mr. Andrew, how are you today?
Hi, Hazri. Good afternoon. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Now, if you're okay with it, I'll be asking you a few questions.
Sure.
All right.
I'm more than happy to answer your question.
I'm glad that you can cooperate. So, since we're running a bit short on time, I've cut the questions a bit from last time. Is that okay?
No problem.
All right. So, what is the main goal of CIC Environmental Services, first of all?
Yeah. I think personally, having worked in CIC for 5 years and to understanding how the business works, I think CIC's main goal, obviously, as one of the leading waste management company in Brunei, it is our goal to do our very best to conserve the limited energy resources that we have through all recycling and other means of technology to make sure that this world is a better place to stay. As short as it is, yeah. I could go on explaining for the next 12 hours, but everyone will probably be fallen asleep.
I see. Don't worry. I don't think any of us find you boring at all. But regardless, I'll still continue. So my next question is, how do you know if someone is faking their first impression?
That's a
very good question, Hazri. Wow. Very good question. Personally, for me, I think that is something a little bit subjective. In this sense, it depends on one person's principle, ideology. For me, I would say two things. One is observation. Observation in the sense that when I talk to someone, I would also indirectly see how the person's surrounding. What I mean by surrounding is, when someone walks past that person, does he, gives a bit of like, a bit of hint here and there. So I would also just keep an eye on that and how other people react around him. Second, I think, which is a bit people tend to underestimate will be intuition. What is your gut feeling tells you about that person? Little people know that intuition is actually most of the time, it's not 100% accurate, but it gives a good certain percentage of how you feel that person. Do you feel that the person is being genius to you, or he or she might be faking it? So yeah, those are the 2 points.
I see. I never thought of intuition because I was not really a believer of thinking with my gut. I always like to think logically, but that's a great insight. Anyway,
You're welcome.
the next question is, what are the criteria that are being judged when someone is being interviewed?
All right, I think this is a good question that is relevant, I believe, to most of the attendees today. Having previously from a past job description, I had to interview personnel for a few times. I would say 2 things, again, 2 points. It's how you understand, or have you done any homework on the company that you're attending to. Unfortunately, I have conducted interviews. I'll have to be very frank to the team today. I've given interviews in the past before when I asked the person, I say, oh, do you know what the CIC do? And as honest as the person is, which I have to give the person credit, is he said, I have no idea. And I don't work in HR, but when I look at my HR personnel and I ask myself, it gives that feeling that the person is a bit not genius in a sense, or that person, again, could be my perception. It would be the person is just simply attending it for the sake of it. So my advice to the team is, if regardless the size of the company or the limited information that you might have on the company, always do your research before you go to interview. Thankfully to the internet right now in Google, you can find a lot of information online, or you can also ask your friends, your family members, what do they know about the company, and try to get them to know more. That's
I see. I
yeah.
see. Oh, carry on.
Oh, sorry. So second would be how you express yourself. As mentioned by Shaun, I think in his earlier points about communication, I would usually see how the person express him or herself. For example, I will ask a question of, what is the most challenging task that you ever had? So those are very common HR questions that we always ask. And I want to see how the person express himself. And I think another tip that if I still have a bit of time that I would like to give the team is, there's always a stigma that people, that when you're attending an interview, you're not supposed to ask questions. You're just supposed to answer and just smile, keep quiet. And, my advice to the team is always ask questions. And the key thing is asking the right question. One of the smart questions that you might ask is, as asked by Hazrin earlier, what is your company goal? What do you see the company in 5 years? And trust me, if you ask these very, very smart questions, you are not only impress the HR, but you also increase your opportunity in interviews. I cannot guarantee you 100%, but I would guarantee you at least 5 to 10% that additional marks will be given.
I see.
Andrew, can I ask one question while we're at it?
Sure.
Is it okay for me to ask about the pay?
Pay, yes, you can always ask the pay, but personally for me, I asked the same question before to my relatives who obviously has more work experience than I do. You can ask pay, but that you also might probably need to ask yourself, how much do you value, in a sense that, are you okay with $1,000 and $2,000 per month? But my advice to the youth today is never, especially when you're first starting off, as much as people value money, that should be the last thing that in terms of your job criteria, because I've seen it time and time again, with experience and time, money will come. Don't make money the one that judges you where you go to your path. Always follow your passion, and the money will come automatically. Trust me.
So if you're good, money will come.
Yep, that is it. It doesn't have to be the oil and gas. As commonly in Brunei, a lot of people will want to opt for oil and gas company, Shaun, but it can be oil and gas, it can be non-oil and gas, hospitalization, tourism. If you're good, people will for sure pay you. Yep.
Thank you, Andrew. Hasri,
Thank you.
I love your voice. My God, so good. I wish
It's
I
one of
can
my
speak
redeeming
like you.
qualities.
So calm, such a radio DJ quality voice.
Thanks
Andrew,
for
what is your
that
first
compliment.
impression of the team number 4? I mean, they have clearly blown everyone's mind, from the get-go until right now. How do you train them?
Personally, I have to be honest. I'm not saying this because I'm mentoring this team, but when I first saw their slides, I was really impressed, and they showed me the final cut yesterday, and I've already told them. I say, truth to be told, I've seen a lot of presentation in my short career, and this is definitely one of it's definitely up there. In terms
This
of
is up there.
content editing, the way they express themselves, and it's truth to be told, although we're doing this virtually, but nervousness there will still be butterflies in the stomach, and they carry themselves.
There's no nervousness. What are you talking about?
Exactly, Shaun. I mean, in fact, I was half an hour before this call, I was writing down notes like crazy on my questions. How do I answer? And look at the team 4. They carry themselves very well, and they
so much pressure. So much pressure for everyone else.
Yeah. So I have to say they did a very fantastic job. Although with the time and constraint, they were able to provide their points. And another shout out to Hazri. When we were doing this practice yesterday, I was telling him that if he continues to do this moderator job very well, Shaun might not have a job very soon.
He's already kicking my ass off. Well done to you, Hasri. Take it away. Take it away.
Don't worry, Shaun. Wait for 2030. I'll be there. Anyway.
Yep.
So, where was I? Oh yes.
Sorry.
In your opinion,
Yep.
do you think making a good impression in public prevent the person to actually be true to themselves?
Wow, that is a very good question again, Hazri. Personally for me, again, it's a little bit subjective, but personally for me, when I look at it, it's being true to yourself is actually already a good impression, because you're not trying to fake, or you're not trying to act like someone. You're being yourself. For example, if I may give an example, it's yourself, Hazri. You're not trying to act like Shaun. You're not trying to act like Andrew. You're not trying to act like Vivek or Amuni. You're just being yourself, and that itself is already a good impression. And some people a little bit more shy, but that is also another good impression. Good first impression. So yeah.
Yeah, Hasri, I can't fake to be like you neither. As much as I want to try.
Yeah, we're all human. We have our own personalities. I agree with that.
Yeah, that is correct.
What a lovely answer. Okay. So next question. In a workplace, what is the most important etiquette that everyone should follow?
That's another good one. I've actually noted down into three crucial points that I would wish, if there's anything that the team could take away from my Q&A session, would be these 3 points, because I cannot emphasize more on these 3 key points, which is 1, punctuality, which I think the team 4 has explained. When you're in the real workplace, coming to work on time is something very crucial. It in a way reflects your personality. I can give you a very good example, a real life example. In my past role, my timesheet is when you clock in your what time do you go to work. It was actually signed off by my managing director, Mr. Daniel Wong, who's also used to be a speaker last year. He actually pointed out that I was late to work 1 minute. He said, Andrew, you could improve. You came to work 7:31. I think you can improve on that. And when you're new to the job, you might be thinking, it's just only a minute late. But in my field in sales, business development, if you're late for 1 minute to a client, that immediately changed the ball game. You could be giving a very bad impression and you're not serious for the job or opportunity, and that's punctuality. Second, it's work dress. I've seen a lot of faces through my webcam. I can see everyone dressed appropriately, very nice, and I urge the team to continue that when you go to your workplace, because again, my same. I think that's the.
All right.
That's unfortunately the warning bell.
No worries, no worries.
So sorry to cut the commentary short.
No worries.
But unfortunately, we'll have to cut the time because we want to open the floor to any possible questions from outside. Yes.
All right. So all the participants, anyone who has any questions to my mentor, Mr. Andrew Lowe, please raise your hand. I'll pick them out. And if you're too shy, you can type it out in the chat.
We have Wafik from Etiquette.
Hello, Mr. Andrew.
Yeah, hi,
nice
Wafi.
to meet you again.
Nice to meet you again.
So, on behalf of Team 1, I want to ask you, how much should first impression matter?
How much? If I could gauge in a range of 1 to 100%, I would say 75, Wafi. Why I leave another 25% out is because first impression could be changed, as mentioned by Jarek. Because usually people are a bit nervous when you first meet someone new. You might accidentally say something slid off the tongue, but you can always change. And on that point, I would always say, if you do make a slight error or mistake, always remember action speaks louder than words, and you can change that person's first impression.
Thank you for the answer. And
thank you, Wafi, for the question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew. We have enough time for one more question. So anybody?
If nobody has any questions, I have one last one technically.
Sorry
about that.
Sorry, Hazri, but can we give the floor to Ryan?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Hi Andrew. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hi Ryan. Hi, good afternoon.
Can you finish the third point? Because just now you got cut off by a time.
Oh, yeah.
No, I give you the chance.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay.
Let's go, Ryan.
The third point, I think that's again, thank you, Ryan, for the question. The third point is actually greeting. It's something that I was taught from young, and also when I joined the company, it was something that I was trained to, is always greet people. It doesn't matter if the person is a cleaner or he's just merely an operator in what we call an oil and gas field. It doesn't matter what the person's level is. When you see someone, the person comes into the door, always greet them good morning. You don't need to ask them the whole 1,000 question. How are you? How are the kids? How blah blah blah. You don't have to. A simply good morning or good afternoon, sir. That itself makes a very good impression already. Yeah. So that was actually my third advice, right?
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew. Wow, I'm very certain that this presentation had a lot of impression on everybody else. I certainly had a lot to learn from it, and I will have to take into account everything that this team has presented so that we can create a better impression of ourselves. So amazing work, Team 4. Your hard work is greatly appreciated. And thank you so much, Mr. Andrew, for so generously sharing with us your philosophy. Just to recount some of the things that you said we can do, we can always remember to do our homework, our research of the organization, express ourselves better, and always ask the right questions. Well, Aimuni, this team can definitely give us a run for our money. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Shaun.
I will sleep with one eye open tonight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to everyone, and it's definitely been a blessing and an honor to be part of this group.
Thank you so much for all your generosity, sir.
Okay,
As well as your humility, there's a lot to learn from you, definitely. So everyone, how are you doing? With all the amazing talk, I'm sure we're all working on how to improve our social skills, because that's definitely what I'm doing. So in the pursuit of greatness, it's always important to take a short breather, and that's